Imagine a country where electricity was once something people had to plan their lives. You could not simply turn on the light whenever you wanted. Factories had to stop working. Business depend on diesel generators. Students studied according to electricity schedules, and millions of people became expert at one thing, waiting for the power back. That country was Nepal, a nation famous for the Himalayas, Mount Everest, and some of the world's most powerful rivers, was once struggling to produce enough electricity for its own people. But something extraordinary happened. Nepal began transforming its rivers into electricity. Hydropower projects started coming online. Transmission lines expanded. Electricity imports from India helped stabilize the system. Private companies entered hydropower development, and eventually Nepal crossed a historic line. It did not it did not just consume electricity, it became selling, selling electricity to India. And then came another historic development. Nepal began sending electricity to Bangladesh through India transmission network. So how did a country that once suffered from prolonged load shedding became a seasonal electricity exporter? This is the story of Nepal transformation from a load shedding nation to emerging South Asian energy suppliers. Chapter 1. The country with rivers but not enough electricity. Nepal has something that many countries would dream of having: water. The country is home to enormous river system flowing down from the Himalayas. Rivers such as the Kosi, Gandaki, Karnali and their tributaries carry a huge amount of water from the mountains towards the plains, and that water has enormous potential for hydropower. Yet having water does not automatically mean having electricity. For decades, Nepal electricity infrastructure remained far behind its potential. Hydropower development was slow. Large infrastructure projects took years to complete. Transmission networks were insufficient, and electricity demand continued increasing as Nepal urbanized and industrialized. The result: a massive gap between electricity demand and reliable supply. And this gap became particularly painful during the 2000 and early 2010. Chapter 2. The Age of Load Shedding. For many Nepalese people, load shedding became part of everyday life. Electricity would disappear for hours, sometimes at extremely inconvenient times. Business needed backup generators. Factories could not operate normally. Students struggled to study. Internet services were interrupted, and hospital and other essential services required backup power system. The economic cost was enormous. The World Bank documented how unreliable electricity affected business and productivity. Nepal electricity crisis was not simply an inconvenience. It became a national development problem. The country needs more generation, but it also needs something equally important: a stronger transmission and distribution network, because producing electricity is only half the challenge. You need to transport it. Chapter 3. The Turning Point. Then Nepal electricity story began changing. One of the most important turning points came during the late 2010s. New generation capacity was added. Electricity imports from India helped fill shortages. Transmission infrastructure improved, and the Nepal Electricity Authority became more effective at managing the electricity system. According to the World Bank, residential load shedding ended in early 2017, while industrial load shedding ended in early 2018. By 2010, Nepal was described as load shedding free. That was a remarkable transformation. Think about the significance. A country that had become associated with scheduled power cuts was now moving towards continuous electricity supply. But Nepal was not finished because the next question was what happens when Nepal produces more electricity than it needs? Chapter 4. Nepal biggest natural advantage. The answer was hidden in Nepal geography, hydropower. Nepal has enormous theoretical hydropower potential. The World Bank has noted estimates of around 43,000 watts of economically feasible hydropower potential, although only a fraction has historically been developed. And this creates a fascinating situation. Nepal electricity system has a major seasonal characteristics. During the monsoon, the rivers become powerful. Hydropower plants can generate much more electricity, but during the dry season, rivers decline, and many run of river hydropower plants generate less electricity. This means Nepal can move between two very different situations. During periods of abundant water, electricity surplus; during dry periods, electricity shortage. And the seasonal differences became one of the keys to Nepal electricity trade with India. Chapter 5. India becomes both customer and partner. Nepal and India have something geographically important in common. They share a long border and their electricity grids can be interconnected. That creates the possibility of electricity flowing in both directions. When Nepal needed electricity, it can import from India. When Nepal has surplus electricity, it can export to India. This is much more powerful than simply building electricity plants. It creates a regional electricity market. One country can have a surplus while another has a shortage. Instead of wasting that energy, the electricity can move across borders. A major piece of infrastructure in this story is the Dalke Bar Muzaffarpur cross-border transmission connection. The World Bank reported that the Dalke Bar substation became Nepal's first 200 220 kilowatt substation, an important hub for electricity exchange between Nepal and India. This infrastructure helped create the foundation for a large cross-border electricity trade. The Hydro Chapter 6. The Hydropower Building Boom. One of the biggest reasons Nepal electricity story changed was the growth of hydropower development. The country began seeing major projects completed. Among them was one of Nepal's most important projects, Upper Tamakosi hydropower projects, with an installed capacity of 4 456 watts. Upper Tamakosi became Nepal's largest hydropower project. It was commissioned in 2021. Projects like Upper Tamakosi dramatically increased Nepal's generation capacity. At the same time, the independent power producers began playing a much larger role. According to Nepal Electricity Authority, FY 2024 to 25 annual review, 22 new projects involving independent power producer and NEA subsidiaries with combined capacity of about 434 megawatt were commissioned during the fiscal year. Chapter 9. The Big Bangladesh Movement. But Nepal electricity ambition did not stop did not stop with India. There was another country watching, Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a huge population and a growing demand for electricity. Nepal has abundant hydropower potential, but there's a geographical problem. Nepal and Bangladesh do not share a border. So how can Nepal send electricity to Bangladesh? The answer is India. India provides the transmission corridor between Nepal and Bangladesh. In October 2024, Nepal, India and Bangladesh reached a three-party arrangement for electricity trade. And then in June 2025, Nepal began exporting electricity to Bangladesh. The initial amount, 40 megawatts. It may sound small compared with the size of national electricity system, but politically and historically it was enormous because for the first time Nepal was supplying electricity to Bangladesh through India transmission infrastructure. Three South Asian countries were connected to one electricity trade arrangement. Nepal generates, India provides the transmission route, and Bangladesh receives the electricity. This is more than an electricity transaction. It is an example of regional energy cooperation. Chapter 10. But there is a big problem. There is one important detail that must not be ignored. Nepal has not completely solved its electricity problem because Nepal hydropower system is highly seasonal. During the rainy season, there can be enormous amounts of water. Electricity generation rises. Surplus electricity can be exported, but during the dry winter months, rivers flow decline. Generation from many run-off river plants fall. Demands does not disappear. People still need electricity. Factories still need electricity. Businessmen still need electricity. So Nepal may need to import electricity from India during the dry parts of the dry season. Chapter 13. If Nepal can successfully develop that potential while protecting communities and the environment, the country could become one of the South Asia's most important source of clean electricity, not just for Nepal, not just for India, but potentially for the wider regions, from load shedding to electricity supply to electricity exports. This is Nepal energy transformation. If you found this story interesting, subscribe to the channel for more documentaries about Nepal, technology, geopolitics, energy and the future of South Asia. Thank you.